Welcome to the Inventors Association of Arizona. How many people is it your first time here? Great. Well, welcome. We are trying to get more visible, and we'll be doing a little more marketing later on, but in the meantime, for people that are new here, if you like what you see, tell your friends. So there's everybody, somebody knows somebody that has an idea. We all have our own ideas too, and that's what we're all about. Is we are very grassroots, and we take people from the very beginning. In fact, the best time to get involved with us is when you first have your idea. We're the Inventors Association of Arizona. There is a national organization that we do belong to. To belong to the national organization, you have to meet certain standards, which we do. We're a membership-based or nonprofit, and we're really here to educate, support, and provide a source of information for inventors at all levels. We're all inventors, ourselves. So we've made mistakes, we've had successes, we share all that with you. We have people that are still working on ideas, and we have people that have 47 patents and have products on the market already. So we have kind of a good variety of resources for you. We do provide the guidance. We help each other turn ideas into reality. It's very synergetic in that even people that come into our organization become a member, even if they've never brought anything to market, we all tend to be people that think outside the box. So, they have ideas to help others. So it's really amazing how synergetic a bunch of people, a variety of levels of experience, can help each other. We also have a lot of resources. The IAA has been around, Linda, about 15 years? At least. It started in Tucson. We have the Phoenix chapter, the Tucson chapter, then closed. So now the Tucson people come up here. And as I said, we're not a for-profit company. We don't want any piece of your product. We don't want to share in any interest of it or anything like that. We're here to provide guidance. And we're not an organization either that will do it for you. There's a lot of organizations out there that do that. We don't. We give you the knowledge so you can get to a certain point on your own. Okay. We hold 2 meetings a month. The first Wednesday, like tonight, is our public meeting. And actually, I need to change the slide because we used to meet at DeVry, and now we're here permanently at the terraces. The first Wednesday of every month, we have our keynote speaker. It's also a very good time for networking. Usually people hang around afterwards and get to know everybody else. And then we have our closed door meeting too. That's the 3rd Wednesday of every month. Now, on the 3rd Wednesday of every month, that, as I said, members only, okay? These are people that have signed the NDA. It is confidential, it's closed door. What goes on during those meetings does not leave the room, unless you want to hook up with, other inventors that you met in trade services or something like that outside. But confidentiality is strongly enforced. And that, because, we all want to protect our own IP, especially new inventors. And I've been one, everybody's been one. You tend to be really paranoid at first. So, and we've all been there. We know what that's like. So, we do pay very much close attention to that. Now, at the closed door meetings, this is where all the action happens. This is structured like a think tank. We share ideas, suggestions, we share our resources, we get individualized help. We have grown so much. Now, it used to be everybody would kind of sit around and one person would say, I need help with this, and then, now 30 people will give them help. And now we have so many people that we're dividing the time up. And so if you join the organization and you want to come to the closed door meetings and you need help, you need to email me. We're setting something up on the website so that you can actually sign in to get help. And then we divide the time up. We're hoping that everybody can get at least 15 minutes, with help. So what happens is, let's say I need help, I would get up to the stage and I would tell everybody what I'm trying to accomplish, what stage I'm in, and then ask the questions. So you need to know ahead of time. What specific questions? What do you need help with? And then now you will have 30 or 40 brains working on your product. It's really pretty amazing. I'm sure there's times that we can't help and we don't have the answers, but quite frankly, I haven't seen it yet. Usually, we may not have specific answers, but we can tell you where to go. So anyway, so this is actually a really great organization. The requirements for membership, you have to have an application in. We do need a copy of your driver's license, not just the picture, we need all the information, because we need to be able to check all that out, and then you must sign our non-disclosure. And the annual membership is $50. So we try to keep our fees very low, so just about anybody, can afford to join. If you join in a group, let's say a husband and wife, we actually have one's husband, wife, and 2 kids. So they got a great bargain. But the first person is $150, and then $100 for each person thereafter if you join at the same time. Seniors, it's $100, active military, and full-time students, it's $100. And I also want to kind of give you a heads up that we've grown so much and our needs are getting bigger, so we are contemplating an increase in our membership fee that probably wouldn't happen until 2016. But if you're kind of sitting on the fence and you think you might want to join, it probably would be better to join this year before we turn into 2016. Also, we help a lot of people. We're always looking for speakers. We're pretty picky about our speakers because we want to check them out, make sure they're in line, their values are in line with ours. But we are always taking suggestions. So if you come across anyone that you think would be helpful to inventors, please email me. And I forgot to even tell you who I am. I'm Laura Myers. I'm the executive director. So when you go to email me, my email address is on the website, EXDIR. So I'm kind of known as Exter. So anyway, so just do exter@azinventors.org, and I will get back to you. Sometimes it might take 2 days because we all work full time, and sometimes I don't start my inventors day until about 8 o'clock in the evening, so it may take a while, but don't ever think I'm ignoring you. It's just I haven't sat down to that particular computer yet. Okay, let's see, a couple of announcements. We have, let's see, we just did a little spot on Channel 12's Midday Show. That is going to be airing on Friday. Friday's the 9th, right? So if you happen to be home during the Midday Show, I believe it starts at 12:30 and goes to about 2 or 2:30, something like that. So we will be on there then. We've already recorded it. And then we will be putting that on the website also, so if you'd like to see that, that was a lot of fun. Brian's family was on with his invention. Yeah.
What's the name of the show?
The Midday Show.
The Midday.
Channel 12.
It's Channel 12.
NBC.
Yeah, it's our local NBC with Destry Jetton. She does a lot of family things. So our show was on mompreneurs. And then we're going to be doing another show called Dadpreneurs. And then I'm actually talking with Destry about doing another show on inventions that save time around the house. So there's a lot of those out there too. So we're hoping to do a series with Channel 12, and then hopefully we'll broaden out to other channels too. Okay, now real quickly too, our next speaker in November is going to be Tech Shop. And the reason Tech Shop was here about a year ago, and we have so many new members that may not be familiar with Tech Shop. They will be our presenters next month. They are phenomenal. If you're in the stage of prototype development, you really do need to know about these people. So they will be here. That would be a really good one to attend. Our December speaker is Brian Burt, and he's from Snell and Wilmer Law Firm. Brian is always a very big attraction. He is a phenomenal man, just absolutely brilliant. He will be speaking on crowdfunding. So if you're contemplating Kickstarter or something like that, that would be one to attend also. Okay, and Brian, you have an announcement?
Sure, a couple of things. All right, my name is Brian Lifshitz. I'm one of the board members here. So my notes tell me that, first of all, silence your phones, please, so the speaker doesn't get interrupted and you don't get interrupted. You get to hear all the wonderful words of wisdom. Number two, while you have your phones out, we do have a Facebook page now. So it's, write this down, AZ Inventors. So Facebook/AZ Inventors. You can go on there, like it. We're going to put up as much information and content. For those of you that love social networking and you love Facebook, we would love your help. We'll make you a manager of the page, and you can help us promote and market our speakers. So again, that's AZ Inventors. Go there and like it. There's only 2 people right now that likes it because we just started it about a week ago, and there's 40 people in here. So I expect to be up to 42 by the end of the evening. All right? For those of you that are on Facebook. So I won't make you raise your hands if you're not on Facebook. Last but not least, before I get to the good piece of information, everybody turn around and say hi to Nathan. Everybody turn around and say hi to Nathan. So Nathan has a video camera and he's recording us. That being said, we have a crowd release here, which is going to be on the doors from now on. And basically what this just says is that by entering the premises, you guys know that you're going to be on film. We're not here to film you, but your heads may be seen. If you do ask questions, if you do get up, you may be on film. And we're letting you know that because we're going to basically be marketing these films online, tutorials and educational moments as necessary and as we need. So by coming here and paying and stepping in, you're agreeing to that. If you don't agree to that, the doors are in the back and we're sorry, but that's the way it is. Now, the good piece of information is that Facebook page that I started a couple of days ago that I and some other person liked, we got a hit from a TV show up in Canada. So the announcement basically, I'm going to read this so I don't mess it up. This is from Nicole from Bell Media. She represents Daily Planet. She's a producer of the show. The world's longest running science and technology television show that airs on the Discovery Channel in Canada. It's in its 20th season. It's a nightly TV news magazine that covers inventors, engineering, and big tech from around the world. She's going to be coming to Arizona in about a week or 2, and she asked, do we have anybody that wants to go on her show? She needs to fill some additional airtime. So the end of that is, if you want to know more, come see me so I can get you in touch with Nicole and you can work on that deal. Obviously, you want to know that your product can be viable on TV, be seen on TV. You're obviously in those stages if you want to be in Canada as well. Come see me after and I'll give you her name and number, or we can connect after one way or another. And with that, I'll introduce Les, who will introduce our speaker.
And then also with that, I'll just piggyback a little bit with Brian to
Hey.
make sure that you are protected in Canada, because it's going to air in Canada.
Hi, I'm Les Holland, one of the board members. To add a little bit about the value of membership. When you join, you sign an NDA. That's a non-disclosure agreement. What that means is you and all the other members have agreed not to disclose any information that members present. Why is that important? You cannot patent something that is in the public domain anywhere in the world, or more than 1 year after you disclose it in a publication, a speech, a sale. That 1 year clock does not start when you are talking to people who have a signed non-disclosure agreement. So you can bring your item here in a black bag and put it out on the table and say, here's what I've got, and what do you think? And some people will say ooh and ah, and other people will tell you how to make it better or cheaper or faster. And you've not started that 1 year clock. That 1 year clock is absolute. You don't want it started any sooner than you have to, so you get to choose the time. So we want to help you protect your intellectual property. That's any combination of patents, copyrights and trademarks. And we help you understand the importance of a search. Before you spend money to patent something, has it already been invented anywhere in the world, anytime in the past? If so, don't waste your time. You cannot get a patent. So those are the ways we help you. So when you join us, one meeting can be worth many times the fee that you pay for membership. We save people money. We help you move your ideas forward. So we want you to join us. If you want to keep coming back to the open meeting, come as often as you want. You're welcome. But we really want you to join us. Tonight's speaker is going to talk about product commercialization. This is what happens after your idea has turned into a product. But it's still a very long stretch from that product creation to commercialization. How do you get it on a shelf? How do you get it on Amazon? So he works directly with some of the world's leading retailers and manufacturers, and they have an insatiable demand for new products. And he knows what kind of products, and he's going to share that with us. He comes to us from Sacramento, California. He's a prolific inventor, has launched and licensed products commercially and internationally. And he has a unique innovation platform called Damon Accelerate that he will tell us about. With that, I give you our speaker for the evening, Dave Lamson.
Thank you. Give me a minute to get set up here. Let's see here. All right. Everybody hear me okay? All right, so, good?
A little bit for back here.
Okay. First of all, thank you for letting me be here tonight. I appreciate the opportunity, and a special thanks to Laura for setting this all up. Hopefully I can provide you guys some good information. I was told I only have 4 hours, so I'll speak real fast. So what we're going to do tonight, I'm going to tell you about what I've been through. Hopefully you'll be able to trust me and hopefully trust what I have to say. We'll discuss the process about commercializing a product, actually getting a product from your head onto the store shelves. It's obviously going to be a big overview, but hopefully there's some tidbits of information that you will find helpful. We'll talk about the Damon Accelerate program, and then after I'm done, we'll spend as much time as you guys want with questions and answers. Hopefully answers anyway. So, any patent attorneys or patent agents in here? Okay. I'll apologize in advance. There's a couple of jabs thrown in, but it's all in jest. Patent agents and attorneys are worth their weight in gold when it comes to the right time, especially writing a utility patent with claims. So they're highly regarded, but I have a little fun, so no offense. So everything I'm going to talk about tonight are just based on my opinions and experience. Everybody is different, so your experiences and your certain circumstances are going to be different. What I tell you, like I said, it's a broad general overview. Hopefully it will be beneficial, but again, spend the time working on your own product. Can't tell you that enough. So, I guess I got a confession to make. I'm an inventaholic. And hopefully I have a few more out here. I think I'm in the right crowd. Started when I was a kid. I would go by my older friends' garages and they'd be tinkering, and I just wanted to be involved so bad. I wanted to build something. I wanted to tear things apart, see how they worked. So I started at a very young age, and I absolutely loved it. But it only lasted a couple years before I really wanted something more. I wanted something stronger. That's when I got into the power tools and duct tape and electronics. So it's a progression, but it's a lot of fun. I was that kid when at school we would have all these speakers come in. You know, firefighters, attorneys. You know, do you want to be an astronaut? I've always said I want to be an inventor. I knew it when I was a kid. Anybody else feel that way, or is it just something that you picked up along the lines? Yeah, it's a really fun thing to be involved with at any level, whether it's a hobby or I'm fortunate enough to have it as a profession. I'm working off two screens here, so forgive me. So, as I got a little bit older, when I was in high school, really loved tinkering. I told you I was an inventaholic. The questions from my parents started to come. I knew I had it bad when my mom would say, "How come your eyebrows are singed? Where's my toaster?" You know, my dad's asking, "Where are all my tools?" So I knew I had to do something with it. I mean, this is exactly what I was born to do. When I was in high school, I made this device, what ended up to be the Total Gem. Now, I can't take credit for it. If that was my device, I would have flown my helicopter here. But I made it out of 2x4s and skateboard wheels. And it worked perfectly, and I was excited. But I was in high school. This was before the internet. So I didn't know what to do. I talked to my parents. They didn't know what to do. All my friends who I built one for, I got their parents involved. I just couldn't find out what to do. So a couple of years went on. It was just before Christmas, and I was walking through a mall in the Bay Area with my girlfriend, and they typically don't set things up during the course of business in a mall, but there was some guy putting together one of these machines. And by the way, before I saw this, I did contact companies, and they wrote me letters back. Some didn't respond at all, saying, you know, no thank you, we're not interested. But lo and behold, it comes onto the market. I'm not one of those guys who think somebody stole my idea. I actually used it as a motivating factor. I said, look, I didn't know how to do it, but I want to learn how to do it. I know a lot of people will actually contact the company. That gives us a really bad name. If you contact the company and say, hey, I contacted you, you stole my idea. That makes us look like crazy inventors, and it doesn't do any good for us inventors to talk to major corporations to help us commercialize our product. So the funny thing is, when it was being assembled, he was having a difficult time when my girlfriend said, oh my gosh, that looks like yours, except theirs was shiny and chrome and pretty and not made out of 2x4s and skateboard wheels. So I walked up and I said, are you having trouble putting it together? And he said, yeah. I said, well, here, let me help you. And I put it together, and 30 seconds later, it was all together. And he goes, wow, thank you. What department are you from? I said, I don't work here. He goes, oh, well, we shouldn't have done that. But even though my girlfriend and I both had big, lumps in our throat going, man, if I only knew what to do, that could have been my product. But again, it gave me encouragement. If that ever happens to you, I bet you almost everyone in here has had some idea along the line that have seen something on the shelf somewhere, Amazon, some retail store, TV, whatever it happens to be. You can't win them all. But if you use it as encouragement, that's a great thing. So I knew that I wanted to keep going. So a couple of years later, I contacted Specialized Bikes. I had a new design for a component on Specialized Bikes. And I actually got my first licensing deal just out of high school. And my prize was a new bike. And I was happy with that. That was just when mountain bikes were just coming on the scene. I actually took that mountain bike and rode up and down the east coast of Australia and both islands of New Zealand. So it was a real reward for me. And every time I'd get on my bike, I was there 6 months riding my bike. I had everything I owned on that bike. But I knew in the back of my head, I got that bike and I'm here because I had an idea and I was able to follow through with it. I was really thrilled. So of course, I wanted to do it again. Well, there was lots of distractions along the way, perfume and gasoline being two of them. Moved up to Lake Tahoe, started a family, and had my first child up there. I was involved with some pretty good jobs, although I wasn't a professional inventor. What I had done during that time is I kind of developed a fear of failure. I'm sure that's not completely uncommon. Again, there weren't these easy mechanisms or easier mechanisms to get your product into the marketplace. You'd still have to go to the library, you'd have to go search through the patent books by hand, and it was a tedious process. It was very, very difficult to actually commercialize something unless you knew somebody or you worked for a company. Back then, most things were developed within their R&D system. You know, these guys at the back, it was really hard. There wasn't a lot of mechanisms to deal directly with an inventor. Nevertheless, that didn't stop me from at least starting to sketch down a bunch of ideas. Well, during that time, I was a healthy guy. I ended up having, well, I'm a golfer. So I was playing golf at Tahoe Donner, had the best ride of my life going. And on number 6 hole, I fall down flat. I end up in the ER. And I went 5 years without being diagnosed properly. I had all kinds of medical issues happening. I had heart problems, they sent me down to Stanford. I had mental problems, they sent me down to Davis. I was being sent all over the place. Finally ended up getting diagnosed with Lyme disease. During all that time, I never took unemployment, which I'm proud of, or disability. But during that time, my cognitive abilities got so bad that I would look at this sketchbook that I had and say, well, I know that's my writing, but I have no idea how it works. So I lost almost all my capacity. I couldn't watch TV because it would make me nauseous. I couldn't read because I couldn't comprehend it. And it got so bad that my wife would come home from work and bring my daughter home from daycare, and I didn't know their names. So it was a rough ride for a long time. Now, there's a reason I'm telling you all this. I don't want you to feel sorry for me, but as soon as I was diagnosed properly and got the right medication going, and I started to come out of the fog, I realized, wow, I know what's important to me. I know what I need to do. Most important thing in your life is your health, your family, and for me, number 3 was inventing. So as soon as I started to get my cognitive abilities back, I started to look at these things, started to recall how they worked. I decided to immerse myself in the product commercialization world and learn absolutely everything I can from beginning to end. So I started to read books because I could again. That was a great thing. So again, I just dedicated my life to learning because I still had that fear of failure. All my friends and family who supported me throughout my illness, they knew when I was going to get out on the other side, I may not be able to be that contractor who built those custom homes up at Lake Tahoe anymore because I had lost a lot of my physical abilities. But they knew I was going to go pursue being an inventor. So again, didn't want to fail. Has anybody else ever been afraid to fail pursuing your invention? It's kind of hard to admit, but you know, it's part of the game. So after all that research, talking to successful inventors, unsuccessful inventors, going to trade shows, starting to meet people, meeting with corporations, you know what I found? Not that slide. What I found is there are so many companies who prey on people just like me and you. That's when they really started to flourish. And I hate to even use that word. They started to come onto the scene. They learned that there's a bunch of people like me throughout this United States that say, I love my idea, I think this is a great idea, and I want to do anything I can to bring it to market and make money off of it. You know the companies I'm talking about, the invention submission companies that are out there. Do you know that they have less than 1/10 of 1% success rate, and it's even less in some? They're service providers. They don't actually care if your product gets commercialized or not. They make the money on providing you some, excuse my language, some BS marketing survey. I'll tell you, I've been in front of many, many buyers, even last week. If you give them a marketing survey for one of these invention companies, they're going to laugh and probably kick you out. It's completely worthless. I have seen boilerplate market research surveys with different font. I've seen 2 different reports, and they had different font for the different people for their different product. So anyway, I'm not a big fan. Hopefully nobody's been taken for a lot of money. What they have figured out is there's about a $20,000 sweet spot that most people can somehow get together if they're real passionate about their idea, that they'll either borrow from their savings, from family and friends, neighbors, whatever it happens to be, and they'll invest about $20,000 until they finally say, that's it, no more, we're not getting anywhere. That's just under the amount that they're going to go and sue them, and it's just over the amount, because they don't want to, they're embarrassed about it. So a lot of people just walk away, they feel like a failure. The bad thing is, I'm one of those guys that really believe those products. There's fantastic products out there that should have been commercialized. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but I'm one of those people who believes our American economy could be much, much stronger had all these real good products been commercialized. So stay away from those folks if you can. So there's only a couple of slides that I'm going to read verbatim. This is one of them. Actually, ad lib. There's no foolproof way. Even the method that I've created, it's not just my method, it's bringing successes from everybody else who's done things, finding out what to do and what not to do. It's never going to happen 100% of the time, and you have to realize that. Don't keep throwing good money after bad. There is a time when you should quit. That's a topic for another time. But please, don't keep pursuing things year after year after year and continue to throw money at it if you're not getting any success at all. If you're still getting the same responses from your potential partners, whether they're a licensing partner or a retail partner, at some point in time you got to listen. Take that motivation, turn it into a good product, and move on. The market is the great equalizer. I don't care how much you love your product. I don't care how much I hate it. If it sells, it sells. If it doesn't, it doesn't. There's a lot to it. There's marketing, there's timing, there's cost, a lot of things that are involved with actually the success of a product, of course. But truly, the market is the great equalizer. I've been talking about a process here. You can absolutely increase your chances of success if you react logically and follow a process. And we'll talk about that here in a couple of minutes. So, after all that knowledge that I gained and all those people I talked to and all those books I read, I said, okay, it's my turn now. I had a good combination of things. First of all, no matter what, the product has to be good. It needs to be a great idea for it to sell. Every once in a while you'll get some quirky product, no pun, that will actually do well. But bottom line is, this day and age, it needs to be a great product. I followed the process that I thought and hopefully would work. The timing was right. And most importantly, I had the confidence to pursue it. And the TF on the end, that's a term we use. It's called testicular fortitude. There's a direct correlation to another term that we have later on in the slide, which is paralysis from analysis. It's actually the opposite. So what I did was, again, I was just getting out of being sick. I didn't have any money. We had lost 5 years essentially worth of income. So I went to family and friends, just like I told you not to do, or will tell you not to do. But I developed a product. It was a chemical formulation to help with caulking. If you ever have tried to caulk something with silicone caulk, it's very difficult. So being a contractor before, that was one thing that really bothered me. If I hired a sub, they'd come in here and make my job looked really bad. So I wanted to figure out how to do that correctly. And thankfully, I was able to do it. So I got some investors together. I hired some people to help me launch this. I manufactured it. I marketed it myself. And we started to go to trade shows. Actually, there's a real fun story. Before I did that, I did my research, like Les said, that you need to do. And one of the things that I did is I went to the National Hardware Show. And does anybody know a gentleman named Ron Hazelton? He's got a nationally syndicated home improvement show called House Calls. And it's been on ABC for years and years and years. But he was at the show, and he was speaking to a bunch of celebrities in this room. And I said, well, I need to go show him my product. I'm thinking outside the box here, right? I'm thinking, if I could get him to endorse it, that's fantastic. So I boldly walked into the room, and this big security guard puts his arm across me. And he goes, what are you doing? I said, oh, I want to go talk to Ron. And he said, do you know Ron? I said, yeah, I know Ron. He goes, okay. So I walked in, and I got Ron's eye, and he winked at me back. And after the topic, he was done. He says, what can I help you with? I said, if you can give me 2 minutes of your time, I promise it won't be a waste of your time. And I gave him a quick demo. He goes, that's effing great. I was on my way. I found my first supporter, and he actually did some national TV campaigns to help promote the product. He's one of my best friends to this day. We actually have a product that he pulled out of thin air yesterday, and we're working on it already. So if you ever get a chance, Ron Hazelton, it's Ron Hazelton's House Calls. He used to be the home editor for Good Morning America, and his wife used to be executive producer of Good Morning America. So he's a big invention fan, a big inventor promoter, and he's actually going to start to dedicate some of his space at his website purely to inventors and inventions. So you might want to sign up. He's got over 500,000 people visit his site weekly that are signed up. So he's got quite a following. What he's going to start to do is sell products through his website. So the product went amazingly well. 6 weeks into it, I had international distribution. We broke records at Ace Hardware and True Value. And by the time I got to my third show at the National Hardware Show, where I was actually presenting, I brought my wife, and I had told her how successful the first 2 shows were. And we got the booth set up, and the other people were helping me and everything, and the show was on for 5 minutes. And she says, is this all there is? And 5 minutes later, boom, we had the busiest booth from what I could see, certainly up and down the aisles, but it was great. We had great success. Before too long, I had major companies courting me for partnering with the product. There was DAP, Henkel, GE, Red Devil. I mentioned GE. The gentleman came by during that show, one of the guys who didn't have a badge on, and he gave me his card, and it was the president of GE Caulks and Sealants. At the time, GE was the rated #1 company in the entire world. And they had the best caulking products far and away. He said, would you like to meet? I said, certainly. So I ended up, long story short, a 1.5 years later, we have a signed agreement for a marketing and distribution deal with them. The bad thing that I did was, that was my intent. I wanted to bring product recognition. I knew it could work, but it's one of those things, unless you really see it, you don't believe it, because it does work really well. So we accomplished that. I accomplished getting the partner that I wanted. So we signed a letter of intent immediately. And he said, okay, stop selling it. I said, no problem. He goes, we're going to take it over, and we're going to get it out there under our brand within months. I said, perfect. We had QVC, we had Home Depot, we had Lowe's. Everybody was waiting in line to buy it. And I said, okay, here's the contact information for GE. It took 1.5 years before we actually had the agreement signed before we could start production with their brand name. Pretty disappointing. In the meantime, I'll tell you about what happened later, but when we finally did get going, it was pretty exciting. They flew their engineers. You know, they need to make sure that your manufacturing facilities check out, your boxes check out, everything. And the first order, 4 entire semis of material took off. And I thought, man, I'm on my way. That was a fantastic deal. Well, partnering with somebody that big, one of the reasons it took so long is they didn't have any mechanism to deal with an ancillary product. They had a way to promote their products from their R&D department, but not to deal with somebody from the outside. It took so long. The other problem that I ran into dealing with the big company is they always changed managers. So within a year and a half, I had 6 people that I had to reteach them all about the product. You know, well, this is the buyer at Walmart that said they want it. So anyway, it was very, very frustrating, to the point where I've actually just recently pulled the contract from GE. I'm actually going to take it back over and relaunch it in about 18 months from now. That's when I can get my product back legally. So thank you. Yeah, it's you know, finding a big partner like that can be incredible, but sometimes it's better to go with the medium size. Maybe they're a little bit more hungry, maybe they'll pay more attention to it, maybe they need it to actually build sales for their company as opposed to just another product. But again, subject and discussion for another time. Because there was a lot of fanfare around that product, and we had won all kinds of product awards, I attribute that to 2 things: following the process and paying attention to the details. Very, very difficult. I wouldn't recommend that anybody goes into business like that. It was a full-time job for me and 2 other people just to figure out all the EDI, the UPCs. Everybody has different requirements for shipping contractors. I mean, the amount of paperwork is absolutely overwhelming. Now, again, I didn't want to fail, so we really paid close attention. So we did well, but I didn't want to run the business, so it was actually good timing. Luckily enough, other inventors, entrepreneurs, and businesses had contacted me and asked if I could help. That's how I got into taking that process that I had built and trying to help other people and other businesses. That was a great time. I loved helping people. A lot of it was on a one-to-one, and I had a real problem because I couldn't say no because I was so passionate about helping other people. It was to a fault. I actually didn't even pursue any of my own ideas because I was paying all my time and attention to other people. So I kind of got caught a little bit. I knew it was working, and I wanted to help out on a bigger scale. And to come back to this American dream thing, I really do believe wholeheartedly that these invention submission companies need to be put out of business. There's so many great ideas out there that if they were in our economy right now, maybe we wouldn't be in the position that we're in. One of the biggest companies, you may not be aware of this, one of the biggest and most well-promoted companies out there, if you submit a product, you automatically assign any rights to them right off the front. It's well hidden in small print and about the 10th or 12th page. But very little known fact, the president of that company has over 700 patents assigned to his name, and he's not an inventor. Just be forewarned. Again, wanted to help out on a large scale, so I decided to get together with a company that can actually help on a large scale. Has anybody ever read the book From Patent to Profit? You have? Okay. I became CEO and president of that company. It got boring after a while because the guy, the true author, I co-authored a couple of things with him, but the true author of this book, all he really wanted to do was sell his books and give lectures. It got real boring, and I didn't want to do that. I was there for a few years. We helped some people bring products to market, but I wanted to be more hands-on. I started my own company called Creation Nation. Then I started to go to a bunch of trade shows. I got a good reputation, thankfully, within the industry, so I became a requested product judge at a lot of different events and started speaking at a lot of different events. So I got to know a lot of great people. And during those years, I got to know who is good in the industry and who isn't good in the industry. And the list is longer on who isn't good than is good. And I'm sure you guys have heard horror stories. I did a little bit with Innovative Ventures. One of the most brilliant guys I've ever met. It was actually a DRTV company that wanted to get into promoting products. So I learned a lot about DRTV. But again, you know, I didn't really agree with the way that they were doing it. I ended up with Damon Worldwide, and I'm real excited to be with them, and we'll talk a little bit more about them in just a little bit here. So I keep mentioning the process. Again, it's repeatable. These are just broad strokes. In fact, it's a lot of common sense. You're going to read these things and they're just little statements and you're going to go, yeah, that makes sense. But it's amazing how many people don't follow such a simple process. And it may be that your situation doesn't require you to do every one, but at some point in time, if you follow the process, you will increase your chances of success. So now we're going to get into the process. First thing you got to do is have a great idea. Bad ideas don't sell no matter what. Product search, like Les had said, that's the first thing that you should do after you come up with an idea. I can't tell you, literally hundreds of times when I've been on the phone, somebody has called me and they'll describe my product and I'm on Google Google Images, and I say, are you in front of your computer? And I send them, I said, does it look like that? And it's like, oh crap. I mean, it happens all the time. So it's sage advice, spend enough time, use as many descriptive terms as you can in describing your product. Just because it's a Frisbee, if you were the first person and you called it a Frisbee, you're not going to find it. Call it a flying disc, a round disc, a throwable round object, I don't know. Come up with as many descriptive terms as you can. Get the thesaurus out, but be organized, because you're going to get from one link to the next, and all of a sudden you're going to get overwhelmed and go, okay, did I do that one before or not? So get the thesaurus, write down your terms, because you're going to use those terms again in a few minutes. Okay? So be organized. I like to do images. Sometimes you can get something like a description when you search the web, because there are some specialty catalogs that will describe a product like you're describing, and it may not have an image. So it's worth doing both. You search the web and images. I like images because it's faster. Perform a patent search. The reason there's an asterisk there is because, once again, you can't gauge everything off of a patent search. Patent attorneys know this. They're great at it. It's a service that they provide. If you're going to go get investments, hopefully you don't have to. You know, some people require for you to have a patent search, but use those same terms. You could go to Google Patents. Now, it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough to do. You know, you might want to consider hiring somebody, but at least give it a go. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. Just don't base your entire decision to move forward on not finding a patent or finding a patent. Here's a caveat here. Let's say you find a patent, but you don't find the product. You think, okay, well, what's going on? The patent is still in its cycle. You know, there's 10 years left for protection here. What I've done on more than one occasion is contact the patent owner, the IP holder, and say, hey, I had a product similar. You could use whatever approach you want, but did you have any luck commercializing your product? Because I've thought of something very similar. If they didn't have any luck, maybe they don't know. Maybe they spent all their money getting a patent. Maybe they don't have the expertise. Maybe it was just an ego thing to say that they got a patent. Say, well, I have a product. I have a way to commercialize it. Would you be willing to assign the patent rights to me, or, excuse me, not assign it, license the rights to me for a certain percentage of sales? I'll take the onus of commercializing the product, and if it sells, you'll get some money. Another way to do it is actually buy the patent outright. We've had successful products that have taken both of those approaches. So, build a prototype. Proof of concept is a great way to do a prototype. You don't have to spend a lot of money. And let me tell you, don't go for the Swiss Army knife if all you have is a knife. In other words, keep it simple. You know, You might have your end result with all these gadgets and bells and whistles, but chances are, prove out your simple product first. So keep it simple as you can. If it's expensive to build a prototype, there are ways around it, especially if you're considering licensing your product to a different manufacturer. You might be able to do something virtually. You might be able to even get away with the description or something along those lines. But a prototype can actually be hugely beneficial. Protect your idea. Another asterisk, because I'm not an attorney and I don't take my advice unless you talk with an attorney first. I personally am a fan of a provisional patent application. It gives you 1 year of protection. Some people treat them nonchalantly. The one piece of advice I'd give you is don't. Treat it like it's serious. Treat it, I mean, you kind of want to have it like a patent application without the claims. You're going to refer to that if you're with your same product. You have that 1 year period of time. If you decide to file for a utility patent application, and you want to reference that provisional patent application, it better be pretty darn close. So again, I'm no attorney. That's where these guys are worth their weight in gold to help you along that process. License or manufacturer, there's actually a couple of slides after this that we're going to get into. It's pretty involved, so I won't spend much time on it right here. Do your best to try to determine costs. You know, if it's a product that you don't see anywhere and it's so unique and you go, well, you know, I need this part from over here and this part from over here and this is really rare, but it's needed, you know, you got to think about it before you try to market it. No matter what, find good partners. You're going to need good partners along the way, whether you manufacture it yourself, whether you find a licensing partner, somebody you can trust. A couple more do's on a broader scale. Educate yourself as best you can. Immerse yourself in it. Keep it simple, like I mentioned before. Keep the whole process simple if you can. Try to become a category expert. Learn everything that you can in that category that you're going into. Go to stores. Can you envision your product being there? What's it going to look like? What's your competition like? Competition, absolutely crucial that you have an understanding on where they're at, what they do. Is your product really better? There's this old myth that if I change somebody's product by 10%, I can get a patent issued. That's not correct at all. It needs to be new and novel. Is that right? Okay. But it's amazing how many times I hear it to this day. Well, I just needed to change by 10%. That's not true at all. Be reasonable. And now, here's my jab, I'm sorry. Nothing kills a deal faster than greed and attorneys. But there's a smiley face by the attorneys because they need to be involved because this stuff is complicated. So be open and ready. There's a high likelihood that if you go for licensing, or even if you try to manufacture it yourself, if you go to a retailer, they're going to suggest changes. Just be open and ready for that. Don't be obstinate. They'll kick you out, no matter who it is. Be professional. That's so important. Please don't be a crazy inventor. It hurts all of us. If you go in there and saying, this product, every home in the world needs at least 3 of these, that's kind of crazy talk. Be reasonable. Understand the market that you're getting into. It'll help you, trust me. Pay attention to the details. It's absolutely critical. You want to try to foresee any questions moving forward that might come up, whether you're trying to find a licensing partner or going to find and meet with a retail buyer. Here's some don'ts. Don't rush to see a patent attorney first thing. Time and time again, I always hear that, oh, I have an idea, I'm going to rush to my patent attorney and file for a utility patent application. So that's not really, again, that's my advice. Do what you want, but again, there's a great time for that, maybe not right away. Don't rely on your family and friends for an opinion. You know, nobody wants to hear their baby's ugly, but your family and friends aren't going to tell you, man, that product sucks. It's not going to happen. They're going to want to support you. I mean, you know, maybe they will, but in general, don't rely on them for money either, because if it doesn't work, man, how are you going to get out of that? I mean, I can't tell you how many divorces I've heard of, and families are broken up. I mean, you guys have seen movies about it. It happens, and it continues to happen. please don't contact an invention submission company. I think we covered that pretty thoroughly. And please don't order inventory. So many people have garages filled with products that don't sell. And they say, well, I'm only going to order 100 to see if it sells. Yeah, but the manufacturer talked me into 5,000 because it's such a better deal. And you know, we'll amortize the mold cost, on and on and on. There's a million reasons why people are sitting on a bunch of junk. Please don't do it. There are other ways to test the market before you get to that point. And don't be a one-man marketing team. You got to listen to people. If you say, nope, it has to be this way, you may be the only person who actually feels that way. I'm a big fan of licensing your product. Going into business for yourself and manufacturing and distributing it and marketing it, it's really, really difficult. I imagine that you guys have heard other people talk about licensing. It's a great way to go. Unless you're really, really, absolutely over the top devoted and have some expertise in running a business, licensing is a very, very good option. It can be mailbox money, and that's the best kind of money. So some of the pros, you know, it's basically you put that onus on your licensing partner. This is less risk. And the great thing is, if you have more than one idea and you license one, you go and focus on your next idea. And you go to your check or you go to your mailbox every quarter and you pick up a little bit of money and you're happy and you're going to want to do it again. So some of the cons, you know, even though you have a licensing agreement, we build in guaranteed minimums into a licensing agreement. That doesn't mean you're going to get paid. They can say, sorry, we didn't meet the guaranteed minimums. Well, we got close, but you know, if you want to go to somebody else, go ahead. Or why don't you work with us some more because we think we can hit that minimum in another 8 months. So there's absolutely no guarantee, even though you have a signed contract. Contracts get tricky. Again, attorneys are very helpful when it comes to something like that. I would not recommend signing one on your own without hiring an attorney. Hopefully you'll get to that point. That statement up top is very important. Just because you're a great inventor doesn't mean you're a great entrepreneur. Something to think about. Again, you know, is there anybody here? I guess I shouldn't do that. I don't want to put you on the spot. But again, starting a business. Now, if you go small, you know, if you want to sell things online, that's much easier. If you have a small product that you want to sell in your community and do this grassroots type of movement, that's all good. You know, if you think that your product deserves to be out there on a national scale and that's what you're going for, to build and to scale to that point is very, very difficult. So it kind of depends, again, on your particular situation. DRTV, anybody interested in DRTV? Nobody? All right, well, I'll give you a super quick then. I love DRTV, but it's the slimiest business out there. I know every single head of every DRTV company, and I feel like I have to take a shower after washing their hands. It's awful. I actually made a deal with one of the sharks, Kevin Harrington, because he's in DRTV. He's a good guy, but there's no faster way to product recognition and brand recognition and to sales. If you're interested in DRTV, please don't rush to a DRTV company. Call me, we can talk about it. There are options in which you can maintain ownership of your product and test it and kind of scale. You don't have to go and give it away to those guys. It's a really, really risky and it's a very tough business to understand. They rely on inventors like us. They will beg us to submit products to them, but what goes on behind the scenes is not always pretty. The company that I mentioned that I work for now, Damon Worldwide, actually does a lot of the manufacturing and distribution for some of the biggest DRTV companies out there. So if you're even considering it, let's have a conversation. I won't spend time on it now. TV shows, there's more and more out there. I'm actually a retail advisor for All American Makers. That's on the Science Channel. They just got picked up for their 2nd season, and it's now global. There's a lot of shows out there. So Lions Den was the original Shark Tank. And before Shark Tank was on board, casting director called me and said, hey, can you give us some inventors and some products? I said, sure, tell me what it's about. You know, I want to see the agreement that you give. And the agreement was really, it wasn't good to begin with. They said, we're working that out. But the bottom line, it's about infotainment. So that statement, if you have a great product, that may not get you on the show, but if you have an okay product and you start to cry or your mom needs cancer surgery, then chances are you're going to be a better candidate for the show because it's entertainment. It's not purely business. So I don't know, does anybody have any interest in getting on any of these shows? If you do, let me know. I have some contacts. Do you? Okay. So after spending all the time in all the trade shows and getting to know more and more corporations and finding out what they want to see from an inventor and refining this process and getting to know good people, I wanted to help on an even a bigger scale. So I've been involved with QVC, Rubbermaid, and Hasbro for innovation programs. They all have their limitations. They're all good companies to work with, but they all have their limitations. Damon Worldwide is the very first one. Thankfully, they contacted me. I was a consultant to them for the last couple of years, and they just brought me on as a full-time employee just recently. So I'm actually absolutely thrilled. So Damon Worldwide is actually a phenomenal company. So yes.
So what's your title?
I'm Director of Innovation and Strategic Alliances. So Damon Worldwide doesn't mean much to you other than the fact that we have global sourcing, we have a branding company, we have retail services. So they've basically made their bread and butter off of bread and butter. You know, their food is what they've really been involved with lately, but they have such a good reputation in the retail industry that places like Target and Walmart and Kroger have said, Damon, we want you to develop an innovation program to help bring us new ideas. We can't rely just on the manufacturers. So thankfully, that's how they contacted me. Accelerate is brand new. It's a wholly owned subsidiary right now. So here's some amazing facts. 40 plus years in business, 6,000 manufacturing partners around the world, 6,500 containers going back and forth between the US and other countries, over 40,000 employees in 51 countries. The next one, 170,000 retail products. We can handle yours too. And we have over 100 major retail partners all around the world. We deal a lot with Kroger. Kroger has 2,600 stores. They have convenience stores, and they're so diverse. They have so many trades. I think I have a slide later on that talks to that. How am I doing on time? Okay. So why would you even consider working with us? Respected leader in bringing new products to life. We don't charge you, nor do we take a percentage or ownership in your product or company. It's easy to use. We treat you with respect. It was built by inventors for inventors. And it works. So we need innovation. Like I said, our retail partners are the one that contacted Damon and said, come on, you guys can do this. We can't. They've tried. They haven't been able to do it. So now this is a broad statement. In Laura's statement, she says, I'm going to give the top 10 categories that retailers are looking for. I'm going to do 2, and that covers them both, food and general merchandise. So that covers absolutely everything. When we first built the website, in fact, it still needs to change. It says that our primary focus is on food and food-related products. Now, that's still a focus, but we are getting so many GM items that we are going to change our website, so we're more than willing to look at general merchandise items as well. We are looking for innovative products. We're really not looking for me-too products. If you have a slight variation, a different color of something, we're not the company to deal with because us, just like somebody else, is probably going to kick it back to you. Try to get something a little bit more creative. So just so you know, I should have told you this way back when. I only see a couple people taking notes. I'll give all of this slideshow presentation to Laura if anybody's interested. I'll strip out all the information about me in the beginning and just give you the facts. So I should have told you that to begin with. I apologize.
If we were taping this too, so that will be put on the website.
Okay.
Probably within a week.
Okay. So innovation is the most bastardized word in our community today. Nobody knows what it means anymore. It's so funny. There are some retailers that I know who I have an innovation program. Well, what do? Well, we surf the internet looking for new products. And that's their innovation program. They have 6 people dedicated to doing that. I mentioned some companies that I worked with before, and I'm not going to go back there because I'm not going to tell you which one. Their innovation program, I sat in a boardroom and I said, and they're a very well-respected company, a Fortune 50 company. I said, how do you get your new ideas? We steal them. We steal them. So they'll go out and they'll buy something that they think looks interesting. They'll bring it back to their 4 or 5 R&D guys in the back, and they'll re-engineer it, change something, not by 10%, but get the gist of the product, change it enough to call it their own. So that's why they're interested in true innovation. So anyway, bunch of keywords up there. We don't have to go over them, but it's pretty interesting. I actually came up with this on the plane this morning, and I said, wow, that really makes a lot of sense. So hopefully it does now too. So the classes of trade that David deals with, if you look up there, we also deal with new contracts with the military, and we're also dealing with commercial and industrial. And if you don't find if your product could fit in any of these, we may not be able to help you, but this is pretty darn broad. So the system that we created basically reaches out to inventors. Right now it's in the United States. We have the ability to expand that, but we harness the power of us, the global citizenry. Everybody has ideas, but it's so hard to get them commercialized. This is a true, honest opportunity that doesn't cost you anything. So I said we have the ability to tune this program. So if you consider this an aperture, right now, if it's food or food related, we could take on something that it's earlier development stage. So maybe you only have a prototype of a kitchen item. Well, because we have so many manufacturing partners, we could probably find somebody to help you finish that. And we'll introduce you to the manufacturing partner. You'll both agree to the code of conduct. You'll be treated fairly, and away we go. With general merchandise, we want you to have product ready to go, but that may change as our program grows and we have more and more success. Excuse me. And we bring on more and more staff to help us. We will be taking things in the earlier stage of development. So again, right now, early stage of development for food or food related. For general merchandise, we want you to be pre-production, production ready essentially. So without your ideas, the machine doesn't work, because the manufacturers are pretty much tapped out. You know, rarely does a manufacturer come up with something new, believe it or not. So if you do want to submit, we're just going to go through a couple of things real quick. Got to invent a great product. I can't state that enough. Needs to be a good product. Follow the do's and don'ts that we went through earlier. You guys can review those later. Explore the website, because the website will tell you. We tried to build this thing so it's very easy to use. We kept it very simple. There's not pages and pages and pages to go through. There's maybe half a dozen. There's a good FAQ. We're going to be updating it, but the look and feel is going to remain the same. So if you do go through the process, You have to agree to our additional terms and conditions. That's basically saying, hey, look, right now, only tell us something that's non-confidential. That's how we have to do it. But don't worry, we'll sign an NDA, but that's at the second level. Our team performs our initial due diligence. We kind of do what I told you to do. We'll do a product search, we'll do a patent search, but we won't spend a ton of time on it. We get together with our category experts. You would not believe the number of categories in retail. I mean, a left shoelace buyer for Target. I mean, it gets down to the nitty-gritty. We have hundreds and hundreds of different category experts within our organization. So we'll get their opinion. Hey, have you seen this? Is this trending? Does it look good? We decide what to do. You're going to get one of three answers. Say, hey, we like it. Can we keep it? It's not ready for us right now, but we may be looking for something like this in the future. Hey, we do like it. We want to push you into step 2, and we're going to be requesting additional information and probably samples. Or there's no interest because it's either been done and it didn't do well, or it's just not innovative enough. So if we go into step 2, then we'll sign an NDA, because then we're going to ask you for some information to allow us to make an educated decision what to do moving forward. We do deeper dive on our due diligence. We'll actually bring it to one of our retail buyers and say, what do you think? Okay, I like it. Then, so we kind of do this backwards compared to everybody else. We go from A to Z, and if the retail buyer likes it, then we'll go back and fill in all the blanks, because we have all the resources. Every single step of the way, Damon has resources to be able to make that happen, which is why I'm so excited, if you can't tell. So we decide on what to do. You know, it may be ready to go. One of you out here might have something that, oh my gosh, the EDI is good, your messaging is good, your branding's perfect, your packaging is ready to go, your certifications are done with your manufacturing. That's awesome. We can just plug it into the system. You still might have to wait for a compass timing or planogram, you know, so it still might take a while to get on the shelf. We're actually trying to circumvent that by having freestanding floor stands for innovative products coming through our system. But nevertheless, it's, and then you might have something that needs a lot of development. It's obviously going to take longer. So, but that's what we do. We find the right partner for you, whether it's a retail partner, manufacturer, whatever your product needs. If we get a lot of interest within our company and the retail partners, then we're going to try to make it happen. So some final tips. Paralysis from analysis will get you nowhere. You got to go for it at some point in time. So many people have sit on this great idea and say, well, it got to market. Well, yeah, that's because you sat on it for 10 years. Be creative. Be creative in everything that you do from day one. I told you that story about meeting Ron Hazelton. I mean, that was, I guess that was creative, but it helped move the process forward. Do something a little bit unique. Here's a big key one. If you're going to license with somebody, remember this, because this is absolutely important. The more you bring to the table, the more you walk away with. So if you go to find a licensing partner and you secured some IP, so let's say you've got an issued utility patent, that's great. Even a filed utility patent is definitely more value than nothing. A provisional patent application is valuable. If you can secure the URL, the domain name, the trademark, all of those things are your IP, and those are extremely valuable. If you've done that legwork and they happen to like the name and want to stick with it, and you say, yeah, you can license this stuff from me. Don't assign rights, but you can license the rights for a period of time. If you assign rights, that basically you have to do it through the USPTO. It's actually an easy process. Don't get suckered into doing that. Pay attention to the details. There's so many details that if you just miss one, it could blow a deal. So read things, read them twice, have your partner read them, whatever. Just make sure you're doing the right thing. Get together with an attorney if you don't understand any of the language. You just really need to know what you're doing. And this is actually where I found most of my success over the years, is being respectful, regardless of who the person is. I don't care if it's the person who answers the phone asking if I can get to the next person. It is absolutely crucial, and believe me, I've lived it. If you take that approach, you're going to get through the doors, and hopefully you'll hear those magic words. If you get to somebody, what else you got? Now, if you're respectful, you have that opportunity. You developed a relationship. Nobody wants to have a partner, because that's essentially what you're doing. Nobody wants to have a partner that is difficult to deal with, or obstinate or arrogant. They just don't. So, that's it. I appreciate your time. I actually have a questionnaire that if you guys could fill it out before you leave, that's fantastic. I'd love to know what you thought. I'll hand it out in a second, but right now, I'm here as long as Laura will let me be here for questions. And
Anybody have any questions?
I didn't catch how your company makes money.
our company makes money from our retailers. So if you need a sales team, we'll make money off the products that you sell, like a traditional sales force would, but distribute your product, if that's the case. We also make money if, let's say it needs further development. Now, if we bring it to one of our big retail partners and they say, we love that. I said, okay, well, we need to actually go and get this manufactured, so pay for our time to do all that. Okay. They might want to have an exclusive deal with you for a year or so, but it may be well worth it, especially if it's a gigantic retailer. So there's a number of different ways we make money. Now, if it requires some market research, things like that, we try to get the money out of the retailer.
Are the royalties similar to like a regular licensing agreement, or is it because you guys are helping more, it's cut back a little bit less?
No, it's very similar to a licensing deal, but so we would actually step away. If you were to license with the manufacturer, one of our partners, the deal would be between you and our partner manufacturer. So we would make money once it comes again where it actually we actually sell it into the retailer. So the retailer or the manufacturer would say, okay, sell this into Kroger as an example, and they'll pay us a commission on sales. So it wouldn't come out of your pocket. Yeah.
So along those lines, as you mentioned that right now for general merchandise, you're more aligned for products that are ready to ship. Is that right?
Yeah.
So if they're ready to ship, you're already engaged with the manufacturer, right? Otherwise they wouldn't be ready to ship.
Well,
so what's the distinction there where you do some licensing agreement with one of your networks?
So let's say that you come and you submit a product, and I'm going to pick on you a little bit, so don't take it personally, just use it as an example. So let's say that you come and bring a product to us and say, hey, it's a pen, that's great, but you need to sell it for $10. Well, sorry, Joe, it's too expensive, but are you interested in hooking up with one of our manufacturers who makes something similar? You may not have the expertise to create a good deal, you don't have the buying power, you don't have an end result. That manufacturer is not sure they're going to make money from you, so they're going to charge you everything they can. So we can use our buying power and our relationship to say, hey, Kroger wants this, drop the price down where we can sell it for $5, make a deal with him, and we got a deal.
If I'm submitting a product on Damon Accelerate, what do you look for in like a sales sheet or something like that? I mean, what are the things that I should be calling out on the product?
Well, we actually walk you through that.
Okay.
So it's a step-by-step process. So it's only about 25, some people can do it in 10 minutes if you're prepared. And if you read the website, it'll tell you what to get ready. Sell sheet's great, a picture of the product, if you have a link to a website, whatever you think is applicable, but we walk you through it. There are some questions that are mandatory, and some you just may not have the information available. Yeah.
The timeline from at different stages of your process. When do I hear the first time, the second time, and is it 18 months like your GE example?
You'll hear within 30 days from us. You'll get an automatic response saying thank you for sending the application. Our team will review it as soon as possible, but we'll get back in touch with you no more than 30 days.
For the first time?
For the first time.
And if we pass to the second stage, how long then?
Well, it depends on what needs to be done and what stage of development you're in.
Okay,
So-
and I don't mean to, I'm saying this with all due respect.
Sure.
How long until I get my product out on the shelf if it's a successfully thought-through product,
It really depends. Every case is different.
on average?
There is no average, and here's why. There's a thing called planograms, and planograms account for every square inch of every retail shelf and every retailer. And for the big retailers that we work with, they have planogram timing. So if you have a pen and they're resetting that pen in January, but the meetings to see if you can get reset in January 6 months before, and you come up a month later, it might be a year and a half before you get onto the retail shelf. So it's a matter of timing. Like I said before, we pretty much have to adhere to the compass and the planogram timing, but some of our bigger retailers are very receptive to us having floor stands and freestanding kiosks for products that come through our system because they tend to be innovative. Now, that way you get immediate sales. A couple other things. I don't know if anybody's heard of Amazon Launchpad. It's a brand new program with Amazon. I met with them a couple of weeks ago. It's a pretty cool program. It's not a normal retail program. Your product has to be either funded by VC money, it needs to have been crowdfunded, gone through an incubator or an accelerator. But they like our vetting process so much that we can pick and choose which ones go into that program. They have a huge marketing campaign behind it. Normal retailers are begging to use it, and they say, nope, this is just for startups. So if that's the case, if your product fits that criteria and you have inventory in hand, it could be a month. So it really does depend. I'm sorry I can't be more specific, but the scenarios just run the full spectrum. Yeah, in the back.
Where's your company based?
Well, we have offices in 51 countries, but the global headquarters is in Stamford, Connecticut. Where I work out of my home, thankfully, but travel a ton. So I have offices in Portland and in Cincinnati that I go and visit. Yeah, the back again.
So when you talk about products that can come in, is there they have to be less than a year old? Do you ever deal with any products that have, if somebody's funds have run out and they've gone on the web? Can people come here that don't have a brand new product, that have something that have maybe been on the shelves for a year or two?
Yes, previous sales are fine, not mandatory. In fact, that's a good point. I should have built this into the presentation, but IP is not necessary. I mean, that's not our decision to make. It's your product, and since we're not going to own it, I think IP is always a good call if you can get something. I mean, you can get inexpensive IP, but so yeah, you can have previous sales, you can have no sales, IP or no IP. If it's a great product, we'll make it happen. Yeah.
If you have a mature design that's ready for manufacturing, and you know that it's ready for manufacturing, and your manufacturing network looks at it and says, hey, the cost numbers work out, everything looks good. What's the situation on NRE to actually build the tooling and stuff like that? Is that something that's negotiated? Is that built in?
It's something that's negotiated. So if the manufacturer likes the product as well, he's going to be making the deal with you. Mm-hmm. Okay? So if the manufacturer takes it on, it's a licensing deal. So that's negotiable. Hopefully the manufacturer, because we've already got almost a purchase order, it's not really a purchase order, but we got the thumbs up from a retailer, they're going to reduce that risk. And everybody's looking to expand their business, almost everybody anyway. So the likelihood of them taking on that cost is much greater.
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, you had this setup where you go through there's no non-disclosure agreement at first. You go through and make it your decision, and then you go through. I don't understand why. Tell me why there would be no non-disclosure, because it seems to me that sometimes it could be very difficult for an inventor to describe a product, for it to sort of tell you what he's doing without telling you what he's doing. I need some clarity on that.
Well, that's true. Sometimes it is, but you'll have to figure out some way to describe it in non-confidential terms where you don't disclose anything that's really confidential. That is the best that we could do out of our attorneys.
Do a non-disclosure right up front.
Because it would be completely overwhelming for us. And there's a lot of people that if we sign a non-disclosure, I mean, we're working on so many different products. I mean, we have 170,000 products. That's part of our due diligence process first, because we might already have something in that 170,000 list that's very, very similar, and we wouldn't want to get into dealing with somebody who that's the attorneys, that's exactly how they set it up. So, you know, it may not work for you. Like I said, it just may not work for you. Now, you know, the best way to do that, I mean, if you have any IP behind your product, you know, that's pretty sure thing. You know, we didn't get to have a stellar reputation by ripping people off.
It's actually a lot of the angel investors also will not sign an NDA when you present your product to them because they can't. You know, I'm a firm believer in NDAs, definitely. But there's some very, very valid times that they really cannot. And it's, you know, as Dave says, they have so many that, you know, they may promote one over another at some point and then, you know, they don't want to get sued. You know?
And it absolutely increases our potential risk and potential liability moving forward. All it's going to take is a couple who we sign and say, oh, sorry, you know, no you didn't. You know, you loved my idea and now you're working on it. And we just don't want to get into that situation. So we have to do some initial due diligence before we go to that next step. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you had some prior dealings with, contacts with Rubbermaid, QVC, and some folks like that. Do you, based on your current role and position in Damon, do you maintain those? Like, is there a case where some people, you might say, hey, go talk to Rubbermaid, for instance. I have something that would, myself, that could be a Rubbermaid product. I don't know if they license or not, but the point is.
They do. The problem with Rubbermaid's submission process, they have a submission process. In fact, I'll lead into that. I'll get to your answer. There are several manufacturers. There's other places to submit, but they've only got one piece of the puzzle. They still have to go out there and sell the product, and they're not used to dealing with inventors typically. Now, Rubbermaid, I sat with them, as I told you. They were unwilling to accept submissions without issued. Well, it has to be published.
Okay.
So that's 18 months after you, if it's a regular patent application, utility patent application, 18 months later, it gets published and then they'll look at it. But they will really, that's just almost feel good for them. It needs to be issued before they even do anything with it. I said, you guys are missing the opportunity here because there's so many other companies that will take submissions straight away that the likelihood of somebody saying, you know, I'm going to do it just for Rubbermaid and wait until my patent gets issued is pretty slim.
Yeah.
That being said, if you don't mind me saying, I did some work for Air Canada about a year and a half ago, and we did want to have an issued patent because I was dealing with Rubbermaid at the time. Not an issued, but published. So I'd used the Track 1 process, which is an expedited patent. It's a utility patent application, costs some extra money. There's some additional paperwork that the attorney needs to do. But we actually filed and got issued within 7 months. And we leveraged that to get a deal.
I envision my patent as a commercial type, similar to a water heater in the marketplace for your home. And so would that be the same thing about what you're talking about? I consider that more of a commercial type market rather than a retail type market. Yeah,
you know, if it's something that can go in Home Depot, I mean, that's not our wheelhouse. We do work with Home Depot and Lowe's, but yeah, most commercial things.
Is that something that you guys would look at though?
Probably not. I mean, you're welcome to submit it if I had a better understanding, I'd probably have a more definitive answer. You know, maybe there's some markets that can apply. Again, sometimes our manufacturers are looking for things. I'm dealing with a product that was submitted to us, which is the Perfect Zero on the hazmat scale, meaning it's a plant-based cleaner. And we're actually going to sell that to our manufacturers as well as retail. So, and the federal government. So,
Okay.
but typically that's not what we do. We're looking for innovative retail products.
That's what I'm saying, is that it's gonna be more of a aftermarket thing, so I have to build the market through the commercial, you know, get it spec in the homes and stuff like that, you know? And-
Yeah.
And then the aftermarket sales will come, and then that'll be the retail thing, because the homeowner's gonna have to replace it just like any other durable good over time.
Okay. Well, maybe we can talk afterwards and
Yeah.
so I get a better understanding.
Okay.
Yeah.
At step 2, when you will sign an NDA,
Mhm.
it said, and non-circumvent. What does that mean?
That means that we're going to ask for who's your manufacturer, how much are you getting it made for? But we promise not to go around you, to go direct to your manufacturer. And we're going to tell you some of the people that we deal with, and you promise not to go around us and deal with our manufacturers or our retailers, because we're going to exchange information. But we're doing this in good faith, and we expect you to do that as well. In fact, it's more than an expectation if it's a signed agreement. Yeah.
In the innovative process, one of the most important steps is the prior product search, you know, looking for prior art.
Yeah.
Let's say you come up with a food product, it's innovative to you, you do your prior search, you find that there's something similar but not not the exact same. At that point, I mean, is it worth submitting and going through the process, or would you look at that and say, eh?
Well, I can't answer unless I actually saw the product. But, I mean, if you saw, you know, if you're using an ice cream cone and say, I'm going to make them pink, you know, it's similar but not the same, it really depends.
Right.
That's kind of up to you. If you explore the website, you might learn a little bit more. You know, we're looking for innovative products. Again, we're not looking for Me Too products.
Right.
You know, we're looking for something that's different. So I wish I could be more specific on that.
Well, that's fair,
but
and we can't be specific without having more specifics.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
I understand.
Yeah.
Also, though,
the
let's say
research-
you've got something that's already out there, but you have a part on yours, and actually, Alex can speak more to this, but you can actually protect your piece for your product. So there are ways of doing it, but, you know, don't have to interfere. So
Right.
Yeah.
That's where you really need to get some right there.
Your process for vetting,
Mhm.
going to retailers or your customers to see if they're interested in it, is that the basis of decision-making? Or is there more to it beyond, if Kroger says, maybe, do you end up trying, and you guys believe in it, do you end up trying to sell it, or you just simply halt it at that point if the 25-year-old buyer who has no experience says, I'm not sure I like it?
No, that's not the extent of it at all. Like I said, we have category managers that we talk with. Now, we don't deal with just Kroger. We have 100 different
I mean,
manufacturing partners. Yeah.
So are you talking to more than just one retailer when you're doing it?
It depends on what product it is. So yes, if we believe in it strongly, because our information is so intertwined with Kroger and the other retailers, I mean, we do all the Nielsen data reporting, we do all the analytics, so we actually have a really good grasp on what's trending and what is working. So we actually do say, hey, look, this is trending and you don't have anything like this in your shelves. I mean, we know that information going into it. So chances are at Kroger that person does have experience, maybe not so much in a smaller retailer, but we have a pretty good understanding of what's going on with the market. And if it's not a perfect fit for Kroger, it may be for one of our other retail partners. Our biggest account is Aeon in Japan. We have a dedicated team that we have 12 people here in the U.S. then and know the head buyer very well, that are looking for nothing but products that are made here. They don't even have to be made in the USA, but for innovative products and being shipped over there. We got a direct pipeline over there, and they are eager. It's a new program within the last couple of weeks. Yeah.
So when you submit a product, does it have to be a final prototype, or could it be an idea, or what is?
Well, for,
you know,
for food and food related, I mean, we have to have an understanding on what it is. For general merchandise item, it needs to be production ready right now.
prototype, production ready,
Yeah.
tooling costs.
Well, you don't necessarily need the tooling cost, but maybe pre-production. I mean, if you've got to that point, you probably have the information. If you have a really high quality prototype and say, hey, can you help me with manufacturing on this, depending on what it is, we may be able to assist. But no guarantees, because we're still looking for, you know, things that are production ready for general merchandise. That make sense? Okay. Yeah, in the back here?
I've asked a bunch of questions, go ahead.
I just wanted you to complete your thought on it. Your thought was, well, we generally, if it's Lowe's or Home Depot, we probably not. I just wanted you to expand on your thought on, I was expecting Lowe's and Home Depot to be in your family, but it sounds like you're not. Is there a reason why they're not?
You said that you were expecting that they would be in our family?
Yeah. I mean,
Well, we have accounts with them.
Lowe's or Home Depot, it's probably not a product that we're.
We do have accounts with both of them. So if we have something innovative, we have the ability to approach them and tell them what we're doing. Same thing with Target. We just signed a gigantic deal with Target to do all their private label work, which is putting Target's names on products. That's something, maybe a topic for another time. But private label is always an opportunity because that's how Damon built their reputation. Yeah.
So, the caulking product that you created,
Uh-huh.
would that be something that you'd accept?
I don't even know if I'll push it through the program, but I probably will because, yeah, because it's a hardware, it's innovative. I might even do an As Seen on TV, in which case, you know, As Seen on TV has a faster planogram. They have a faster turnover than a typical retail shelf set. Much faster, in fact. Yeah.
So you do take kitchen appliances?
Yes. Any food or food related is high on the list.
Does that
Yeah.
include, like, sorry,
No, you're good. Yeah.
food service industry, like restaurants and food service manufacturing for commercial?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
An oven for food service, restaurants, fast casual pizzerias. It's a product like that. It's not for sale to retail.
Right,
It'd be primarily sold to other food service people, but it'd be big. I mean, obviously Albertsons or anybody that does any kind of baking or anybody that does anything with an oven, it's not a small
So it's a
product.
commercial side
Right, but it's not.
where it could live in retail,
Right.
live in a grocery store.
Right.
But that's interesting. I would imagine that's, you know,
But
worth
it's still
submitting.
Food service related.
Yeah. I mean, typically not, but if you have that connection to, I mean, we deal with so many different classes of
Right.
trade. Supermarkets are one of the big ones. Grocery is absolutely huge. So, I mean, if that's the connection, then, you know, it'd be worth consideration. Yeah.
So, I design products for a living, high volume products. So, sorry for hitting you with all these questions.
That's all good.
But production ready, I think I'm understanding your definition, but I just want to ask a clarifying question. Production ready, would it be fair to say that for your context, if I had a bill of materials, a set of drawings that were quotable for a manufacturer, and a representative working prototype that matches that, is that production ready in your mind?
Yep.
For talking to a manufacturer?
Yep.
Okay.
That is.
Perfect.
In that instance, you know, I like that because I love SolidWorks and understand the BOM and everything. So yeah, we can work with that.
Okay.
Anybody else? Yeah.
On the initial submission, how many eyes are on that at your company? How many see it?
Typically 3 to 4. Myself, my partner who is based in Cincinnati, and we get it to our category managers as well.
Take a vote on it?
Well, there's a number of different things. It's a pretty strong vetting process. I mean, we don't take days because we can't, because of the volume. But again, those category managers that's all they do all day. They're immersed in that one thing. If it's a pen, that's all they know, that's all they do. They know what's moving, they know what's selling where, what the consumer's looking for, what's on its way out, what's trending. I mean, that's what they do. I mean, it's just, I mean, they know more than the retailer does. That's why they rely on us for all those analytics. And I say us, I mean, those are the smart guys. I'm just out here looking for products.
So does that mean a sell sheet is everything?
Is everything?
Yeah, in other words, if somebody's gonna look at it very quickly, and there's only 3 or 4 of you, it sounds like to me that your sell sheet is very.
No, if you go through there, you know, we're going to have a better understanding of the product. I mean, we ask you for a website if you have one. We ask you for pictures. We ask you to say why it's different. What's your competition like? Have you explored your competition within the last 90 days? What differentiates your product from your competition? What inspired you to do it? So no, it's deeper than that. Yeah. Yeah.
You were talking about that magic 1 year time frame from when you made a sale or just even given a talk on it or something like that as to when you have to kind of be protected. Does just having a website, does that start the clock on it?
Actually, can I defer?
Any public disclosure starts your 1 year. So a website definitely be public disclosure.
You say it again.
It is public disclosure.
That's public disclosure.
Yeah, public disclosure. Anything that.
Website that's open to the public.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you have a private site and it's just used under under a confidentiality agreement where you give somebody a code to look at it, that's different. Okay.
How about submissions? Is that public? Your initial one? Like a submission to Dan?
No.
That just held with EV?
Actually, you know what? That's a good question. I don't know that positively.
Because would it start then? I mean, like if you guys have viewed it, then that you would be considered
Well,
public?
no, I don't think so. You're not offering it for sale to the public. But again, that's a good question. I'll defer once again.
I think it would be considered a public disclosure. If there's no confidentiality or no assumed sort of confidentiality in the submission, then it would be a disclosure.
Right. I would think for the same thing if you're on a submission, if you're submitting to an invention show, that's pretty much public.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
If you have, I'm just trying to figure out how you could disclose something without disclosing the important confidential part of it. Could you provide information like what it generally does, where it would sell? I mean, do you need more than that for the initial discussion to start? I mean, do you really need like, it sounds like we have to step our toe a little bit over the line from the comfort zone, right? And I'm just wondering, is there a way for us to let you know that, is this in your wheelhouse or not? Because you don't want to disclose something and find out it's not in your wheelhouse, right? Because
Right.
you kind of burned a match you didn't want to burn, right?
Right. Well, like I said, there are requirements and there are lots of questions that aren't required. So if you look through there, maybe you're comfortable enough with the description that I'll be able to decipher and say, I get it, okay.
Right.
We'll go ahead and move on to step 2 with the expectation of this is the end result of the product, and then we can share.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Anything else? Oh, can I, hold on.
Like you had said that you'll work with QVC also.
Uh-huh.
You know, so a couple of us are QVC communication will break here too. It kind of depends on when your product goes on show, you know, goes on at,
Do you mind?
2 in the morning on Christmas Eve, probably no one's going to see it. Do you work with QVC in making sure that the product is on the right time?
No. I know people at QVC and I can get to them. Yeah. Oh, thank you. But no, a lot of that's out of control. And you're right. You know, you need to sell a certain amount per minute. And if you have a bad host, you know, the person that's selling your product, they can screw up your product without a doubt. QVC is a good way to go. You know, you're not going to make a whole lot of money. Some people don't like it being on QVC first. I mean, it's a pretty complicated thing to be involved with QVC. But, you know, if you're a dynamic person yourself and you want to help sell your product, they actually love that, to have the product owner out there with them. If you can do that, they actually give you a screen test first and they train you. So if you're one of those people that think you can do it, you get the right spot, there's nothing keeping you from trying to go through there. There's a QVC Sprouts program that is okay. Actually, they ran into a big hiccup when they first started because once again comes back to manufacturing. They didn't have the manufacturing partners. People would submit great products, but they couldn't get them built. Same thing with Amazon LaunchPad. Amazon is partnering with us as a premier partner because people are submitting products to them through this new program, and they don't have the ability to get it manufactured, or at least at a cost-effective price. So they're going to leverage our relationships. So, yes?
Is part of your analysis of whether to accept a product or not, is part of that looking at the strength of the invention, like the patentability? In other words, you think, well, this guy's never going to get a patent, so maybe we shouldn't bother selling.
No, IP is not a requirement, and we do not get into the patentability because that's a whole nother specialty. I mean, we do an initial patent search, just like I mentioned that you should do as well, but it's not real deep. I mean, if we find a blatant foul, you know, if it's blatant that you're infringing on somebody, then it might be something that we can ask you about. But we don't take patentability into it because that's a business in itself.
But isn't that something that could greatly affect how marketable something's going to be? Like that somebody's it's not going to get a patent, so everybody else is going to be copying it anyway. So you guys wouldn't be making that much money on it.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, if you go through a retail store, less than half the products have any IP on them at all. I mean, that's something that, you know, as the product owner, that you should, you know, decide on what to do. If you think that it's patentable and you want to take those steps, that would be your call.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Make an informed decision, you know, using your GE experience,
Mm-hmm.
your years prior, knowing how long it took to go from their agreement to work with you to getting it done,
Yeah.
a year and a half later or whatever it is. It's possible, based on the planogram timing, it could take a year and a half working with you.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
So how would an inventor who wants to be able to license their product make a decision? Do I go with Damon or do I go with Joe's Manufacturing down the block, who's reputable?
Well, that's something that you're going to have to do some research on. Not everybody uses the same planogram timing. I've used Kroger as an example because they're very strict. But again, we have so many retail partners that there are people who aren't as strict, who have much more flexibility in placement and timing. So if you go to a manufacturer, they're still going to have to deal with the retailer just like we are.
They're probably going to want an exclusive also.
Right.
Do you get involved in actually, you know, you have several different manufacturers or whatever it might be. Do you get involved in, you know, exclusive or not?
We don't even, it's not our place because it's not our product. So if somebody were to offer you an exclusive, you know, depending on what their distribution is like, it may or may not be worth it. I'm dealing with a product from Southern California that actually needs additional manufacturing in different parts of the United States. The first guy said, exclusive. We said, you know, the product owner said, what do you think? I said, well, it's not my call, but we already need more manufacturers than just him, so it kind of makes sense not to do an exclusive. So it really depends on your circumstance.
Any other questions? Yes?
Yeah. One more?
You were just touching on, I didn't know that was the question, but I think you might have touched on my answer. Is it typical that it's an exclusive arrangement with the manufacturer as long as they can handle the capacity? Is that kind of a typical expectation?
It's not typical. Granted, our program is new. So we're just getting into that
There may not be
code of,
applicable yet.
yeah, not a whole lot of history on that. I mean, if a manufacturer loves your product and is wanting to make the investment, they're going to want to make sure that that investment is taken care of.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's not going to be unheard of. And we're not going to recommend a manufacturer or even introduce a manufacturer, I should say, it's not even recommend, unless we know that they have the capacity to fulfill our needs on the other side. So we do our due diligence on both sides. Yes?
How many people in your company are like you? I know, are you one of a kind, or are you one of?
I'm considered the doorman. All like any good doorman, I let certain things through and keep other things at the curb. So
Back to that bodyguard?
what's that?
Bodyguard?
Yeah, exactly. So I have a partner named Mary Beth Wilson who lives in Cincinnati. We look at them together because, again, never be a one-man marketing team. And I would never have another guy who acts like me, thinks like me, because that wouldn't be smart. She has a different perspective. So, you know, we look at things objectively and subjectively. And, you know, she might like it, I might not. I said, well, if you like it, that's all it takes is something, you know. And again, it's very obvious when we both reject something. It's usually because it's absolutely ridiculous, you know. So you can just let your imagination run wild. I mean, over the years, I've seen some absolutely hilarious things. So, anybody else?
Hand me your surveys if you wouldn't mind, and I'll collect them.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody.
For a while also, questions that you would like to ask. You had good ones.
For membership?